When are you expecting to come back? When is the day where he's supposed to return?
We'll see. We'll talk about it next week. Not concerned about it right now. We're trying to practice against Tennessee and play a game. I said sometime after Tennessee. There's no definitive date for me, but we'll check on it. We'll keep in touch and we'll find out.
Oh, Todd Bowles with a little tell there, a little stress. We'll check on it next week. The touching of the face while delivering the information, the time-honored psychological and physiological reaction to stress. Look, I feel bad for Todd Bowles. I do. He's the one who's out front and center dealing with these questions about Tom Brady. But this idea that Tom Brady has been gone for 8 days now on a pre-planned training camp hiatus, unprecedented, and that's fine. Everything about Tom Brady at this point is unprecedented. 45-year-old starting quarterback who had over 5,000 passing yards last year, still at the height of his overall powers, somehow still going. A family that is maturing and aging to the point where he's got a kid in high school, for crying out loud. We've never seen this. No one's ever had to deal with it, but we've definitely never seen somebody just say during training camp, I'm gone. It's all pre-planned. I'm trying to understand how the conversation went. Hey, guys, I need to leave on August the 11th. I need to leave on the 11th. Okay, fine. Well, how long are you going to be gone? I don't know. Okay, fine. Just come back whenever. How do they not know when he's coming back if this was all pre-planned? So, I struggle with this, Charean, because on one hand, the man's entitled to his privacy. And he's allowed to have personal reasons for whatever he's doing. On the other hand, he has chosen to live for over 20 years, for over half of his life, a very public existence. And he embraces it on Twitter, social media. He's constantly selling something, whether it's crypto or underwear or whatever. He's into big business, and he relies on his public persona and fame to do it. You don't just disappear for 1 week and longer in training camp and expect everyone to just say, well, we respect Tom Brady's ability to disappear from training camp whenever he chooses to do so. No, people are going to be curious. People are going to wonder what's going on. People are going to wonder whether he's coming back. These are all fair questions because they have created a vacuum of information, and we're all curious. We're naturally curious. The greatest player of all time is gone, and we don't know when he's coming back. How are we supposed to sit there and just shut up and watch it play out?
Well, and Mike, my first thought was poor Todd Bowles, because he got put in this situation. It's really his first big test, because we don't know if Tom Brady's coming back. We don't know when Tom Brady's coming back. They don't seem to know if and when Tom Brady's coming back. And the mystery is a distraction. No matter what they say, it absolutely is playing out as a distraction. And my first thought, unfortunately, was, can you imagine this on a Bill Belichick team? Oh, well, I'm just going to leave on August 11th and not come back. It wouldn't have played out like this. And it certainly wasn't pre-planned. It's something that happened along the way, whatever happened, that prompted him to leave the team and go do whatever he's doing now. And I don't know why that takes as long as it's taken. But, the Bucs came out and said he'll be back after the second preseason game. And I guess technically they didn't lie, because there's no definitive date for him to come back, but it's going to be after the second preseason game. So, but we just don't know when. So it's going to be Sunday or Monday. And I tell you what, Mike, if he didn't show up Sunday or Monday, they're off Sunday. But if he's not around on Monday, this is going to blow up, because at that point, I don't think he's coming back. I mean, you've got to think that there's something going on now that is leading him to stay away from the team.
It has been characterized as personal reasons. Rick Stroud, our friend with the Tampa Bay Times, has reported that it is not a health situation for Brady or any of his family members, which is good news. But still, we are left with nothing other than to sit and wait. I feel like a big part of this has been PR failure by the Buccaneers. Now, maybe they've been put in a bad spot, because how much can you really say about where Tom Brady is, what he's doing, if he's coming back? I continue to believe he's coming back. I just don't know when, and I don't know what the fallout is internally. Again, it's Tom Brady, so the rules are different. At some point, though, the human beings who are in that locker room are going to grow a little bit resentful. when the boss, when the guy who's in charge isn't there working alongside everyone else, and you are, at some point, you're going to get a little upset. And, you know, Charean, for the same reason that if Kyler Murray struggles at any point this year, we're going to say, not putting enough time studying film before games. If Tom Brady struggles at any point this year, aren't we going to say, well, if you hadn't disappeared for 2 weeks during training camp, maybe you wouldn't be struggling?
Well, I think that's the thing that stands out for me is he would have been the last person I would have expected to leave for 2 weeks during training camp, just because you go back to COVID, he violated what the NFLPA put out about not having those voluntary workouts. And he organized those, and he had his teammates there, and they were working out anyway. This is a guy who his MO is to work. I mean, TB12, come on, that's all he does. And I know he's working wherever he is. If he's coming by, he's working, and he's working hard, but he's not working with his teammates. He's away from the team, and we've just never seen this before. That's not his MO. This is a guy that wants to be around his teammates, that wants to learn his receivers. And hey, by the way, he has some new receivers this year. He has some new tight ends this year. He really needs to get to know those guys that he's going to be playing with in week one, presuming he's going to play week one. So this is just unlike him, and I think that's why the mystery is what it is because we've never seen this before from Tom Brady. He's always been a guy who's been there every single day, working alongside his teammates, working harder than his teammates, and he's not there now to do that.
He's had no social media activity that I can discern since August 3.
He hasn't.
And see, I just think that if you are going to live an extremely public existence, and if every other one of your tweets is going to be selling something, and you post different, at what point do you have an obligation as an inherently public person who already has a contract for $375 million over 10 years to be the number one analyst at Fox whenever he decides to stop playing? Well, wouldn't that be something if Greg Olsen gets a tap on the shoulder that he's back down to the number 2 team before he even works a game as number 1? But when you do that, I think at some point you have an obligation to use your own voice, to use your own fingers, to type something to let people know that everything's fine and I'll be back on X, or I appreciate all the well wishes, we're fine, whatever. He's forcing the Buccaneers to deal with this. I think that's the other part of it that just makes it unusual, unprecedented, and something that invites curiosity. Why has he been silent? What in the world is going on? Here's the last thing I'll say about it, because I have no idea what's happening. No one's talking about it. The issue first began. It wasn't last Thursday. He missed 3 days of practice, starting with his birthday, which was supposedly a pre-planned day off, because if you're 45 in the NFL, you get the day off. You've earned that much. You don't have to show up for work on your 45th birthday. But he wasn't there the next day or the day after that. And then he was back for 4 days of practice, and then he launched this pre-planned absence from camp. The absences started the day after everything hit the fan on the Dolphins tampering. And if we're just looking for circumstantial evidence, I don't know what we're looking for. I just know that what the timeline tells me is that before the NFL announced to the world that the Dolphins had spent 4 consecutive years while he was with 2 different teams trying to get him to come play for Miami, and everything started after that, how do we completely ignore a potential connection? You can't. I don't know that there is, but when you just look at the days, everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine. He's showing up, he's working, he's practicing. Boom. The Dolphins tried to get him, and he wanted to play for the Dolphins. Next 3 days, he's not there. Back for 4 days, gone for a week, and we don't know when he's going to come back. I just think it's another item of curiosity in a broader issue that we all are justifiably curious about.
And we talked about Deshaun Watson's next press conference. What's Tom Brady's next press conference going to look like, Mike? Because he hasn't answered any of those Dolphins questions yet. And he hasn't, and then he's going to have the questions about where he's been, what he's been doing. There's a lot to ask Tom Brady, and you know what? He is really good at taking one question and making a 5-minute answer that has nothing to do with the question. I suspect there won't be very many questions and there won't be very many real answers, but there is a whole lot to ask Tom Brady when he comes back and has that first press conference back.
Hey, we know how it goes, and it's Tom Brady. It's like tiptoeing down the hallway to see the Wizard of Oz. And it's easy for us to say, oh, go in there and ask the tough questions. Yeah, because we're not the ones who have to do it. It would not be easy to do in that first press conference, and as a result, we're not going to get much.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.